my name is Irene, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to create this lighting fixture in Revit. Now, please keep in mind, this lighting fixture is not for manufacturing purposes, so I'm not trying to get exactly the lighting fixture, I'm trying to get an approximation of the lighting fixture. So with that out of the way, let's get to it. All right, so before we begin, we need to talk a little bit about how we're going to build this lighting fixture, because the thing is that if we look at it, it is probably not a lighting fixture in the typical meaning of the word, where, you know, somebody went on Home Depot or like Amazon and like this thing was exactly like this, you just buy it and install it. It looks more like an architectural light. That means that this lighting fixture has been designed and built specifically for this space. So the reason that I'm explaining this is because on something like this, it might not necessarily make sense to build the whole thing within Revit families. In fact, when I'm looking at this lighting fixture, I'm assuming that it's a compilation of different things. So on one side, this grid element that we see here in the middle, I would build that with like a slope glazing, basically like horizontal curtain wall system. And then I would do the border. These grass elements that we see here, I would make them as a separate family, then I would insert randomly within this grid. And then finally, the only part that is lighting fixture within this geometry would actually be this border here, which looks just like an integrated LED element. So let's do it this way. Let's break it down into a curtain wall system, well, horizontal curtain wall system, which we're going to be building directly into the project, mixed with these individual vegetation families that get inserted randomly within this grid, and then finally a LED strip lighting fixture family that will be inserted along the edges. You can also do it along the curvature, but it's a little bit more difficult. So let's get started. So in Revit, because I'm going to be working with, again, these compilation of elements, I'm going to start with a new project. Now, I'm going to be working in metric just because it's a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to go default metric and I'm going to go OK. Now, because I'm just building it, like I don't actually have a project that I want to put it on right now, I'm just going to create kind of like a placement. So that means that it is not a real building. It's basically just 4 walls, a floor, and a ceiling. And the purpose is so I can see how the family behaves. And then later, if I like it, I can, you know, copy paste it into a different project, or I can, you know, save it and bring in my project here. So I'm going to start with making just 4 walls, a floor, and a ceiling. Okay, so I'm going to start with 4 walls. Yeah. And then I'm going to do a floor. And then I'm going to finish it with my ceiling. Okay, so let's start with the first part of this element, which is going to be my grid. So for that, what I'm going to do is, we all know that within the wall category, you have curtain walls. Now, the limitation of curtain walls is that curtain walls can only be vertical. But if you want to create horizontal curtain walls, what you can actually do is use the roof command. I'm going to say that I want it to be on level 1, and then we'll adjust the height. I can create a roof, and if you go all the way down, you're going to see that you have slope glazing, which behaves exactly the same as vertical curtain walls. It's just that it's going to be horizontal. So I'm going to start with this guy here, and I'm just going to make a new one, which is going to be my custom like lighting fixture element. So I'm going to duplicate, and this is going to be lighting fixture. Okay, so for the time being, I'm going to leave all of these non-defined, whatever. I'm going to be creating it later. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a rectangle. Let's say that it's going to be 4,000 by 2,000. Sure, that's fine. And then I'm going to come here and I'm going to fillet my corners. So this guy and this guy, and then this guy and this guy. Oh, I said this guy and this guy. Okay, and then this guy and this guy. I don't care about the radius right now because I can go and change it later. So you're going to be 1,000. Oh, I forgot to do something, so now I'm going to have to do it manually. Do you see those like little triangles? So those little triangles are telling me that my geometry, that my geometry is going to be sloped. And we most certainly do not want this guy to be sloped. We want it to be flat. So what's going to happen here is that normally you can set that up before you do the boundary. But if you've already done it, now you have to come here and just uncheck these guys. It's a little bit more annoying that way, but you know, that's the price that I pay for not paying attention. So we're going to finish this guy here. And here is my curtain wall system. Now, if I cannot see where it is, it's probably because of the height. So I'm going to create a camera view. Let's put it something like that, so I can see exactly where it is in the world. And again, remember, I set it up so it would be on the floor. So that is exactly where it is. So now I can decide how high from the floor I want it to be by giving it a based offset. So let's say that I want it to be 2,500 millimeters from the floor. Yeah. Oh, yeah, this roof is pretty low. Let's put this roof at 3,000. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so right now there's nothing because I have not set up any mullions. I have not set up anything at all. So we're going to select our curtain wall system and we're going to start mapping the properties of the grid itself. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my vertical layout to be a maximum spacing. And again, in this image, unfortunately, I don't have any measurements, but I can probably approximate that these guys are probably like 100 millimeters from each other, 150. So let's say 150 millimeters maximum spacing for grid 1, and same thing, maximum spacing of 150 for grid 2. If I apply and okay, I think I'm still not going to be able to see them. Oh, there you go. Beautiful. But again, like this is not actual geometry, like this is just like a preview. It's actually a little bit too dense. So let me make it 200. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to load my grid mullions. Now, when you're working with grids, there's basically two kinds of mullions. There's the interior mullions and then there's the border mullions. So again, if we go back to this image, you can see that my interior mullions are really thin and somewhat tall, and the border mullion is the same height, but it is much thicker. So we're going to be basically going to have two different kinds of mullions. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start with like any mullion, just so I have a mullion to begin with, and I will make it rectangular. So I'm going to start with the 50 by 150. That is not what I'm going to be keeping, but I just want to be able to see something because that looks hilarious. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to select one of them. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to unpin it so I can edit it. I'm going to go to edit type and I'm going to duplicate it. And this is going to be my grid interior. And what I'm going to do is I want like the height of these guys going to be like whatever the height of my lighting fixture is overall. I think I'm going to give it 100. That looks decent. And now for this thickness, this number is like this plus this number. That's going to be the thickness of your mullion. So I want it to be pretty thin. So let's make it 5 and 5. When I apply, let's see how that's going to look in my project. Grid interior. Okay. Sure, let's say that that's what I want it to be. Now, I actually don't want this guy to stay like that, so I'm going to bring it back to the original 150 and I'm going to pin it again, because basically you do not want to change things manually. You want to change things through the system. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, okay, now you guys are going to be grid interior, you are going to be grid interior, and when I apply, all of them are going to be the same. So you don't want to have to set up grid elements one by one. You will go insane. Okay, so that's looking very nice. So now what I need to do is do my border. So exactly the same process. I'm going to start here by setting up just like the 150. So I have something to see, rectangular mullion 150. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to need to see it in all of my borders. I actually think I might keep the 150. Where is it? I don't think it's catching on. Let's put it here maybe, 150, border 150. Yeah, apply. There we go. Oh, you know what? That doesn't look bad at all. I kind of like it. All right. So let's say that we're going to keep it this way. I probably, no, you know what? I probably want it to be a little bit thicker. So same thing, I'm going to select a segment, any segment, doesn't matter which one. I'm going to go unpin, I'm going to go edit, and I'm going to duplicate. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this guy 100 by 100, so 100 by 100 mm, and I'm just going to make this 100 millimeters. And then this one, again, remember, you split it by 2, so 50-50. We're going to go apply, we're going to go okay. And again, then we're going to switch this guy back to the 150 and we're going to pin it again because we want all of the elements to be driven by the system, not by like individually setting them up. So 100 by 100, 100 by 100, 100 by 100, and then 100 by 100. All right. Ooh. I'm not sure. Oh, what's happening here is that basically in the curtain wall, you can instruct who cuts who. And I think that by default, yeah, it's not defined the joint conditions. So basically what you want to do is you always want to make sure that the borders define, not the grids, because when there is a the grid going through, it's going to create these like really weird cuts. So it's either border 1 or border 2. Let me see. This one didn't fix it. So let's try border 2, and grid continuous. I think this one will do it. If not, we could always go and delete the individual. So I can go unpin and delete. Yeah, unpin and delete. Ooh, that's looking kind of messy, kind of nasty. Or, you know what I can do better, actually? What I can do is edit actually like the property of the mullion. So if I go here, what we can do is instead of making it 50-50, I can make it 0 and 100, and that will just shift them to be like from the border out. But I'm not sure what is in and what is, oh, no, it's the opposite way. So we're gonna go 100 and we're gonna go 0, and then that should put it outside the border. Still not working. I might have to work on that for a little bit. Anyway, so this is the first part. Now, the material of your mullion is going to be anything that you want it to be. Now, again, in this reference image, it looks like it's just like a gray something. So again, I can select any of the mullions, and I can come here to the material. I think that aluminum is fine. I'm just gonna, yeah, I'm gonna leave it satin. So what we want to do here is the following. For the light itself, so if I bring this to realistic, for the light itself in Revit, your lighting fixtures usually have two parts to them. So one part is the light source. This is the Revit artifact that basically carries within it the script that will determine how the light is generated that you see in the rendering. And then you have lighting materials. Lighting materials is what you see glowing, and that is what your brain is like, that's where the light is coming from. So one thing that you can do is that you can paint a lighting material over a surface. And I think that's going to be the easiest way to do it with this guy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lay our LED strip light. So I'm going to hide this guy for the time being. And then basically what I want to do, yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. It shouldn't do it, but whatever. I'm going to come here, and what I'm going to do is go to my materials, and I'm going to bring in a glass, like a glowing glass material. So I'm going to open this guy here, and we're going to go to AEC, and we're going to go to glass. And Revit has a default material that is just like glowing glass, basically. And that's going to be perfect for what we're doing here. Oh boy, Revit, are you okay? I don't know why every time that I open materials in Revit, my computer wants to die. So let's bring, it's all the way here at the end. There you go, glass, white, high reflective, something, something, high luminance. And what we're gonna do here, we're gonna select this material. Oh, I don't wanna have glass here. So the last thing that we're gonna do for our curtain system is come here, and on the curtain panel, it's not none, it's empty. If you say none, it's still going to put glass there. If you say empty, then it's going to actually be empty. So that's what we want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the paint tool to paint the bottom of this surface with that glowing material. So I'm going to go here, and where's my PT? Here's my PT. PT for paint. I'm going to select that high glass reflective blah, blah, blah material. And let's see, are you going to let me? Oh, are you not going to let me? Oh, it's only going to let me paint surfaces. That's fine. That's fine. I'm okay with that. We can, you know what? We're going to model it, and then we will just use a model in place for those corners. So let's leave it for the time being. This is the first part. So the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to bring in my herbs, plants, like the thingies that are hanging. So for that, I'm going to just create like an entourage or generic family. So I'm going to go new, family, and I'm just going to go generic. I can later change the category. So I'm just going to go generic model. And what's going to be really, really important here is that we're going to go search for images, and we want to find an image that is a PNG of plants. So I'm going to go hanging plant PNG. Okay. And again, it can be any image. The important thing is that you want to make sure that it has like an invisible background, so to speak. So let's see if I can find something that kind of works similar to what we have here, because these don't look too long. I don't want them to be too long. Maybe I don't want it to be this long. I want it to be the individual so I can manually place them. Let's say something like this. It's not perfect, but it will. Ooh, it does not look like a PNG, which might make placement really hard. Let's see you. Is it gonna let me download this image? Because the thing is that it may preview as a transparency, but sometimes what will happen is that if you just save it from like Google, it's going to save it with the black, with the gray and white background, which is not what we want, most certainly. Okay, so great. This downloaded correct. Yeah, this is exactly what we want. Perfection. So we are going to go, this is our new generic model family. And basically what we want to do is, these are our insertion points. So what I'm going to do here, I'm actually going to go to the front view. And what I am going to do here is create, what would be the best way to make this? From reference plane 0. Yeah, I'm just going to create a very, very thin extrusion, like nothing. And I just want to make it the size that I want these plants to be. So if we said that we had a grid of every like maximum 200, then that means that your plant should be around those dimensions total. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say that this, oh, I made it metric, imperial. Oops, that's fine. As long as you type in 300 millimeters, it should be fine. And then let's say another 300 millimeters. And then I'm going to take this and and I'm going to put it, let's say there. Okay, so this is just a box right now. If you look at it on the top view, it's going to be really, really thick. You do not want it to be thick. You're going to make it really, really skinny. As skinny as possible, like half an inch, let's say like 2 millimeters, right? Like really, really thin. And what's gonna really make it stand out is that we're gonna apply a plant material to it. So I'm gonna go here realistic. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to materials. I'm not gonna make the material parametric because I don't necessarily want to change the plant, but I will create a custom material for the plant. So I'm gonna go here, new, create new material. And here's my new material. I'm gonna rename it to plant. There you go. And now here's going to be the important thing. First of all, for the visualization, I don't want the sphere. Instead, I'm going to choose a canvas. So that's kind of like a straight shot. Perfect. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to load that image of my plant that I downloaded. Where is it? Plant. Right? Then what I want to do is I want to make sure that the size of my plant is within the range of the size of the box that I've created. So we said that it was 300 millimeters. So 300 by 300, oh God, 300 feet, 300 mm. Oh, 300 mm, enter, there you go. That's what we want, okay? And then apply, and then okay. Now, on this view, what we need to do now, and this is the fun part, is that I'm actually gonna use the section box to kind of like determine like where it goes. And you don't have to worry about like being super precise. As long as it's within the general like placement, that's all you need. Okay, so perfect. That's exactly what I want. Now, the magic here is going to come from the other material properties. So for these, we actually need to open that light that that image that we just downloaded. So I'm going to open that image in Photoshop. Open with Photoshop, because basically what we want to create is a black and white version of that image. So I'm going to close this. This was for another video. So this is basically what we have. So what we need to do here is basically create this image, but in black and white. So the first part is super easy. You're just going to create a new layer that is going to go under the plant layer, and that layer is just going to be black. So B for bucket. Oh no, sorry, B for brush. I want bucket. There we go. And we're gonna paint the whole thing black. And now what we can do is we want to create a new layer that is going to be all white. Now, instead of me having to carefully select around the plant, what you can do is if you press Control and you click on the layer, it's going to select all the things that are on that layer. And now all I need to do is go with my bucket again and paint in white this time. And voila, you have a black and white version of your image. So I'm going to save this guy in my in my downloads, and this is going to be a copy of that original. This is going to be, oh, I need to save it as a copy. Save a copy. PNG is fine. That's going to be a copy. There we go. We're going to say okay. And now this is where the magic is going to happen, because when I go back to Revit and to my materials, where are my materials? There we go. What's going to happen is that now I can basically cut out the excess of image with my cutout. So cutout and transparency are different. Transparency just means that things are see-through, but you can still see them. Cutout means that like anything that is not visible, it literally disappears. So I'm going to choose this guy. And the important thing, you can already see the magic. The important thing here is that this image size and this image size have to be the same. So we said that it was 300 millimeters, and there we go. Perfect. Awesome. Now you're not really going to be able to see that effect here much, because this, like, you cannot render in a in a family, you have to bring it into the project. So this is the first version. And usually what I like to do is create a couple like mirrored copies of this family. So that way, depending on what view you are seeing, you are always seeing the plan. So I can use here my mirror. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it in the same center and do this. And again, if you want it to be like more detailed, you can make 3 of them. So I can come here and say, I think it's, can I just rotate and copy? Yes, rotate and copy. So we're going to put it there. Yeah. And then let's do one more. Rotate with, oh, I need to select something. Rotate and copy. And then you are going to be like that. Yeah. So that is going to give you, so if I show you on 3D, what this is going to do is basically going to give me, so like I can see that plan from every angle. Oh, I think it mirrored it down. Whoops, let me redo that. Undo, 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 undo. Let's just rotate and copy. So rotate and copy, you are gonna go, let's say 30 degrees. 30? No, yeah, let's do, no, I think it's 60. That's what I wanna do. So I only have 3. I don't wanna have 4 because it's gonna get really heavy. So then this is gonna be like, is it 120? Math, it is hard, yes. Oh, they did not make it. There, here, and then with a copy. Why did it not do 60? 60? There we go. That's what I want to see. And then 3D view, and then realistic. There you go. Now there. See? So it creates this like a really nice 3D effect without burning a hole on your machine. I love this trick. Okay, great. So now all we have to do is save this family. So save as family. I'm going to put it on my desktop. This is going to be my hanging plant. Okay. And we're going to load it into our project. I don't think I'm going to have to work on this guy anymore. And I cannot see it. Where's my curtain wall? Do I see it on here? Yes, I see it here. So CM, and now I can start putting it. It is on level 1, so I'm going to have to adjust the height. So I'm just going to click to place it, because then when I go to my 3D view, this is what we want to check. So if I want to pick a new host, yes, it doesn't let me pick a new host. Let me see, can I place it on the 3D view? No. Let's give it a height of, what did we say, 4 feet from the floor? Nope. 2,000. Oh, that guy was 2,500, so let's do 2,400. Too much? 21? Too much? 2,200? Perfect. That's exactly what I want. There we go. See, so it's kind of like in between. Nice. So once I have that one, all I need to do now is just start copying it randomly. And again, this is what I like about this method, that it generates this very natural vibe, because it's just like one object. So, okay, great. We have the kind of like architectural part of our lighting fixture. The next step is going to be the lighting fixture portion of our lighting fixture. So for this, what we're going to be creating is an LED strip that is going to be visible. So normally LED strips are supposed to be hidden. This one will be visible. So to do this, what we are going to do is we're going to start by going into new family, and we're going to be choosing a lighting fixture family. So again, this time I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm going to make sure that I'm in metric, and I am going to be going with metric lighting fixture. I try to avoid using anything that is geometry based, like category based, because then you're in this position where you can only place it if that category exists. So it has to be a Revit ceiling. It cannot be a Revit roof. It cannot be like a mass that is a wall that becomes a ceiling. It can only be a ceiling. So because of that, I usually just go with lighting fixture. So what we're going to do here is first we're going to create like our LED. And because it's an LED strip, when you look at an LED strip is not like a single gigantic light bulb. Instead, what it is many tiny bulbs that are placed over a plastic strip. So we're going to kind of create that behavior. So what I'm going to do at this stage here with this, so this is going to be kind of like my single bulb, so to speak. There you go. So what I want to do here is, number one, I want to change the light source properties, because my LED doesn't glow in all directions like a traditional incandescent bulb. Instead, it shoots like away from like its receptacle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the light source. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to switch. I'm going to keep the point shape, but I'm going to switch to a light distribution of a hemisphere. So that way it's not going to cast light directly over the surface that it's on. So I'm going to go apply. I'm going to go OK. The other thing that I like to do, I'm going to go to my front view and I'm going to flip it. I don't like it when it looks down. I understand why it looks down by default, but that's not what I want. I usually want it to look up. So I'm going to go RO. I'm going to click on place and I'm just going to rotate it so it looks in the other direction. Remove constraint, that's fine. Okay, so normally what I would do is I would create now a geometry that is going to help me be able to visualize this lighting fixture within my project. And what I mean with this is that this light source is not visible once you're in the project. So you always need to generate some kind of geometry that will be visible within the project. So in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make it very, very simple. I'm going to simply make a little circle that is going to be kind of like my LED element. So I'm going to go here to extrusion, and I'm just going to make a teeny tiny circle. I'm going to make it, if we're in millimeters, yeah, like 2 millimeters. So like 4 millimeter, 1 millimeter, like really, really tiny. And then I'm going to say yes. And what's going to happen is that when I go to my front view, I just need to stretch this guy so it reaches there. Oh, no, no, that's bad. Bring it close. We're going to need to zoom in. The other reason that I need to zoom in is because you want to be very careful that this little disc doesn't touch the actual light source, because light sources are sensitive to geometry, which basically means that if this guy is inside solid geometry, you're not going to be able to see it glow, and that is a problem. Now, finally, to make things a little bit clearer, I'm going to make this material just like a glowing glass material, the same material that I was trying to use earlier with the mullion. I'm just going to make it that material. So I'm going to bring this guy in, apply, okay. So this is the first half of the equation. But the problem is that this is a single LED. This is not going to solve my problems, and I do not want to be in a position where I have to place each and every single LED in this project. I'm going to go insane. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to save this as a family. So I'm going to go and then I'm going to nest that within another family. So I'm going to go save as family, and I'm going to call this guy LED bulb. Okay, so that's step one of the equation. Step two is that now I want to create my LED strip. And the way that we usually work with LED strips is that you are just going to make it whatever size you need it to be in whatever direction. So ideally, we want to make these LED strip light with a line-based family. So I'm going to go to File, and then I'm going to go to New, and then I'm going to go to Family. And again, metric. I'm going to choose a generic line-based family. Generic line-based. Metric generic model line-based. Now, the reason that I'm doing that is so it already comes with the property of like the length for the placement. I really like that property, but we have a little bit of a problem. And it's the fact that if you've seen my other videos about creating lighting fixtures that have multiple light sources within a single lighting fixture, you need the Nestor family, to be a lighting fixture as well, because otherwise you're not going to be able to link the parameters. And if you ever want to edit the properties of the lighting fixture, you have to go into edit family, which you do not want to do. So here's the trick. Once you have opened this as a generic line-based family, you can actually come to the category and you can switch it to a lighting fixture family. And when you switch it to a lighting fixture family, you actually have the option to turn on a light source. And all you have to do is say, okay, and there you go. Now we have our lighting fixture. So easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So now that I have this, now I can load in my LED bulb. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to save, and I'm going to load and close. I'm not going to need to edit this guy again. I'm going to load it into my family 3. And now I'm going to place it anywhere in my project. It doesn't matter because I'm going to manually align it. Okay, so I'm going to bring it here. Why is this guy so narrow? There you go. I'm not sure. Well, I think I don't see it because of the cutting plane of the view. Can I see it from a ceiling plan view? No, I cannot. Where are you? If I go to a front view, where are you? Oh, you are like way, way down, way above. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by aligning it to this element here. Let's bring this little guy. There you go. And I think it should lock it by default. Yep, there it is, locked. It's so tiny. And now I'm going to go back to my floor plan view, and I'm going to align it with the center. So I'm going to go AL, and I'm going to go center, and I'm going to go AL, and I'm going to go center. Now, what I'm going to do next is the following. I'm going to select my lighting fixture. This circle is too huge. It's too gigantic. I need this preview to be much smaller. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to link these two, because one of the things that we need to understand is that I cannot just control, like if I come here and I change, let's say I want these to be 10 millimeters and I go apply. Oh no, that's 10, what, like 10 millimeters, mm, apply. Okay. Oh, I think it's just really, there you go. It's really small. So what's going to happen is that right now, this lighting fixture is doing whatever it wants, and this lighting fixture is doing whatever it wants. And what's going to happen is that when you bring it into the project, the properties for the lighting fixture that you're going to be able to edit will be for this guy, not this little guy, which is the one that we want. So the solution to this is that we're going to select this little guy. And before we start copying it, we're going to go to edit type, and we're going to link all of the photometric parameters of this little guy with the photometric parameters of the lighting fixture of the family. So I'm going to go and link light loss factor. I can even link the light source symbol size. I'm going to lock also the link, the intensity and the color. Okay, so we're going to go apply. We're going to go OK. And again, what's going to happen now is that let's say that we're going to make this one the same, just so they all behave exactly the same. And I can now control the size of all of them through this. So if I go 10 mm, apply, OK, there you go. So now what I can do is select my little guy, and I am going to copy it as an array. Now, very important, it needs to be linear. It needs to be a first and last array, because basically I wanted to make sure that it starts and ends with my length. Okay, so I'm going to place it here. I always place them outside of the array so I can manually align them and make sure that they are actually aligning with where they should. So now I can come here and, for example, say that I want to have 10 of them or whatever. But these would be really, really tedious, especially if you're doing it in the project, having to go into edit type and then edit family and then have to type a different number. Very, very annoying. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to make the array parametric. To make an array parametric, all you have to do is select any of the members of the array. That's going to show you the array value. Click on the line that shows the array value, and then here under label, you can go and add a parameter, and that's going to make your array parametric. So this is going to be a number of LED, of LED. I'm going to make it an instance parameter. You're going to see why in a second. Remember, instance means that basically it changes with each type with each version of that element within the project, with each instance. That's why it's called instance parameter. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my properties. And the thing is that having this array being parametric is very nice, because it basically means that I can just change it from my project without having to go into edit type. But it would still be very tedious to have to go and manually change that. So check it out. In Revit, you can use formulas. So instead of me having to type in a value, what I can do is I can give Revit an instruction on how to change that number for me. So basically, if we think about it, what we want to do is we want to find a number that is going to be the length of my line-based array based on like how much distance do I want between these little guys. So I can write a formula right next to my number of LED that is going to be length divided, oh, that's not how you write length, divided by what is the distance that I want between my LEDs, right? So they're really, really tiny. I said that they have that like diameter, that span of like 10. So let's say that I want like a 20 millimeter distance between them. When I press enter, that is going to automatically generate however many LEDs are necessary to fit in that distance. Look at that. Now this might be a little bit too far between each other. I usually would want them to be closer. So what I can do, I can actually change this value. So let's say that I want this to be 20 when I apply. That's I usually like to have a little bit overlap between them. Right now, they're like one next to the other. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this 25, let's say, light symbol, so it's more visible. There you go. And now check it out. Because now the array is driven by a formula, look what's going to happen if I come here and I change my length to 1,000. And I'm going to expand here so you can actually see, look at the value of my array. If I come here and I make this 1,000, automatically Revit will readjust the array for me. This is how we want our families to behave. We want them to be responsive. Now, I don't need to worry about having a duplicate of my lighting fixture here, because if we look in the front view, what you're going to see is that the original light source of this family is basically trapped inside of the geometry, so it's not going to glow, so we don't need to worry about it. The last thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a geometry that is going to be like the strip light that glows, because I don't want to see just these little dots. Again, if we come back to the reference image, you can see that it's a strip of light. So we're going to go to create. We're going to go create an extrusion. And I'm just going to make a rectangle. Now, the width of the rectangle isn't going to matter, but the length will. So the length, I'm going to make sure that I use the align tool to align it to the beginning and the end of my reference planes. And now for the distance, I'm going to say that I want it to be 50 from here and then 50 from there for a total of 100. Because if you remember, oops, because if you remember, we said that the width of that border mullion was going to be 100 by 100. So 100 is good enough. And now for the thickness, again, you just want to make sure, where are you? Oh, this is super thick. You just want to make sure that the thickness of this object is under the boundary of the LED. So see how it gives you that message? So you just want to make sure that it's a little bit under. Again, the thickness here doesn't matter because we're not really controlling that parameter. And then finally, what I'm going to do is I am going to once again give the light material to this guy. So what's going to happen now is that I'm going to be able to place my family. So I'm going to go File, I'm going to save as Family, and I'm going to save this guy as LED strip. Okay. All right. And I'm going to load it into my project. So another advantage of working with an with a line-based family is that you can either place it on a face or you can place it on a work plane. So what I can do is I can go to my 3D view and I can say that I want to place it like on this surface. So again, I'm just going to click to start placing it. And then when I click a second time, you're going to see that it's going to generate it for us. Ooh, look at that. See? Nice. All right. So now what you do want to pay attention to, and for this, I may need to create a section just so we can see how it is behaving. It's kind of like, what is the direction? Because remember, it could be looking up or it could be looking down. Did I cut it in the wrong? No, I think I cut it before. You need to be somewhere like here. And if I go there, where is my, oh, I think I saw my LED. There you go. If we look at our LED, it's so thin. There you go. So this is what we want to see. It is looking in the right direction. And now what I can do is I can actually go to my ceiling plan. There you go. And I can adjust it. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that it's starting like where it is straight. And look at that. Look how it automatically adjusts for you. I absolutely love making things parametric in Revit. And it's not just because I'm crazy, but because it's very useful. Like, you are automating a lot of tasks so you don't have to do them yourself. So again, with this lighting fixture, like depending on how hardcore you are, the only limitation that I see with this kind of like LED strip is the fact that like you can only make it straight, which is kind of like a bummer, but it is what it is. So if you want to cover this distance here, what you can do is you can make smaller segments. So for example, I can go here, CO for copy, and I'm going to copy this guy here, just so I don't have to place it again because of like the direction. And then what I can do is I can say that this guy's just going to go there. So again, it's not going to give me a perfect circle, which is a little bit annoying. But again, depending on how attention driven you are, there are ways that we can get around this. I'm going to show you a little trick. So I can make it small. So I'm basically going to follow the same segmentation that the mullion already has. So what I can do is say that I want to make an array here, and I'm going to say that this is going to be a radial array. The placement is going to be, I'm going to try to find, I think this would be the center of it, maybe a little bit further back, something like that, I think. Yes. And you want to make sure that it's a first and second, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that the first one goes here and the second one goes there. Ooh, it's not super hot, but it's going to get me halfway there. And then what I can do is say, I don't know, how many do I need? 20? Ooh, more. 30? Nope, too many. I went too far. 25. 26? 26, magic number. So again, as you can see, it's a little bit like not falling exactly where I want it to fall, but it's close enough for all intents and purposes. So you can use this little trick. And now what I'm going to do, array, curtain panels, generic model. There you go. Apply, and then okay. No, I picked the wrong thing. What are you? You are, oh, you are an array group. Are you though? Lead, check none, curtain. Yeah, I guess that you are an array. And model groups, apply. Yes, that's what we wanted. So I'm going to copy here. And what I'm going to do, I think I need to unselect the array, apply. Okay. Yeah, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to mirror it because I'm lazy. I don't want to have to draw this whole thing. So I'm going to come here. And I'm going to mirror it. And again, this is not perfect. I could spend more time. I'm just trying to show you the gist of it. And now what's going to happen when I go to my 3D view is that you're going to see that I'm going to have those LED. Oof, my computer is like burning. So what we're going to do a quick 3D before my computer dies. it's very likely that it's still gonna die. But this is basically the gist of it. So you can use the curtain wall system to create any complex grid and shape that you want. Then you can manually place your vegetation, and then you can use these LED line-based strip light family to just kind of like follow that shape. So let's quickly render it and see how the whole thing comes together. So I'm gonna leave it on draft. I'm gonna make sure that I set artificial only, and now we're gonna hit that render button, and let's see how this looks like. Jesus Christ, it's so bright. Stop, stop. Oh my God. Okay, we need to adjust our light, which is the reason that I like to work with linking the properties, because now I can control all of the LED properties through this single dial. So I can come here and, for example, say that it was too yellow. So maybe instead of 3,200, I want it to be something like 4,000. And then the most important, now it's going to take a while because remember, there's a lot of them right here. And then I'm going to change the intensity. I usually like to work with illuminance for the settings. 50 might be too much for what we're doing here, because again, you have to think about that each little dot is 50. That is giving me like 5 million here. So I'm going to make it instead 10. And I'm also going to shorten the distance here to maybe like 2,000. So we're going to say, okay, again, it's going to take 10,000 years because there's a lot of little LEDs to adjust. And we're going to say, okay. And now we're going to re-render, and hopefully it will be dimmer. That's much better. That's way, way better. So what you can see is that we're basically getting, I'm actually going to stop and I'm going to let it become like a nice, yeah, this is looking a little bit patchy. I actually want it to be a medium quality so we get less of this noise. But what you're seeing is that we're getting a very realistic behavior, because the plants themselves have the cutout, so like light is glowing through them. You can even use translucency to give them that, like, you know, like semi-glowy effect, and like the lights are interacting really nicely with its surrounding geometry, because again, due to the fact that I changed it to a hemisphere instead of a full sphere, you're not getting that really ugly effect when the light cuts into the geometry next to it, and it looks really, really fake. So when you're working with lighting fixtures in Revit, it's really, really important that you pay attention to the light source, shape, and distribution, especially the distribution. And then obviously, what is the surrounding geometry? What is the material of the surrounding geometry? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this rendering run, because it's probably going to take a while. Oh, no, it's done. See, it hurt me. So look at this beautiful creation. That looks pretty close to my reference image. So with that, that is going to be the end of this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you find it helpful. If you did, please give a like. If you have any lighting fixture that you would see made, by all means, put in a request and I will add it on my to-do list. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for joining in, for sticking through, and I will see you when I see you. Bye.